Hello and welcome to Ingression, the only series that gives you the best tips, tricks, and information on the game that we all love, Ingress. I, of course, am your lovable, enlightened instructor, Incredible Hulk. On today's episode, we're going to cover Pro Tips 4. These are 5 tips that will help make sure that you not only are able to deploy resonators faster, but you will save power cubes, you will save weapons, and will make sure that you never lose track of a portal that you are trying to charge. So let's go ahead and dive right in with Pro Tip number 1. And that is, let's say that you need to deploy resonators. All you need to do is deploy resonators. You don't need to hack or deploy shields as well. Well, you probably are used to clicking on the portal and then clicking on deploy resonator. But if you remember, if you long press on a portal, just like you would long press on the screen in order to fire an XMP, you can actually have that option to deploy resonator from there. It'll pull it to a screen a lot quicker than if you were just going the route of clicking on the portal and clicking on deploy resonator as well. Now, how do I know this? Well, it started off with anecdotal evidence. It felt quicker to me, so I decided to go super Mythbusters on it. And by super Mythbusters, I don't just mean that I stared at a picture of Carrie Byron for an hour, although I did that as well. But I set up a GoPro at 240 frames per second, 10 times super slow motion, and filmed 2 different phones going through this process, an older phone and a newer phone. I tested about 20 different times, and I took the 5 fastest results from each one and then put them head to head on the 2 different methodologies. And interestingly enough, so my older phone was a Samsung Galaxy Lite. It's about on par with like a Samsung Galaxy S3 as far as older phones go, or as far as newer phones go, a Motorola Moto G. And then my newer phone was a Droid Turbo, which is my personal phone that I use. And that one is pretty much top tier. It's about on, equivalent to like a Galaxy Note 4, so a newer, a better phone at this that's out about right now. Interestingly enough, on the older phone it was 12% quicker. On my newer phone it was 13% quicker, so a little bit of user error probably, but give or take it's around 12 to 13% quicker to go with the methodology of doing the long press versus just hitting the portal and then hitting deploy resonator. So in the case of somewhere like maybe an anomaly where speed really matters, that extra 12 or 13% quicker can really make a huge difference. So that would definitely be a huge recommendation. If all you need to do is deploy resonators, obviously if you need to hack, it's going to be a different story. But that is our first tip. And moving on to our second tip, speaking of resonators, let's say you want to gain some extra AP and someone is attacking a portal that you happen to be at. Now, by default, sometimes we'll usually recharge resonators if they're not knocked off, but that's actually not going to gain you more AP. Just wait until they kill those resonators, and then deploy on them. Use whatever resonators you have handy. If they kill all of them, it's going to give you 625 AP for laying that resonator down, versus only 10 AP for every recharge. And then conversely, even if it's just a normal one, it's going to give you 125 AP. If it's closing it out, it's going to give you 375. So this is a good way to rack up AP. One of my old favorite things to do was, it wasn't win trading, but I would head to a bar that was literally owned by someone of the opposite faction, and there was always players of the opposite faction in there. And I would just go and I'd blow up the portal and then just keep deploying because I knew they were going to kill my stuff, and I could easily get 200 deploys because they didn't want to let their home portal stay my color, which made sense, obviously. But it also gave me some great deploys and gave me some great AP. So remember, deploy instead of recharging. It's going to actually give you a lot more AP if you really don't care so much about the portal and if you are at that portal. And speaking of killing portals, this is another thing that always amazes me. So let's say that you have a portal like this one right here that is that it links to a bunch of other ones in the area. This one actually has 15 links that it goes to. I always find it astounding how many times players will go and kill the portals that it is linked to and then go and kill the one that had all the links running out of it. That is actually not your best method, because if you remember, links provide damage mitigation. A single link provides 16% damage mitigation on a portal, but it doesn't keep going up forever. So 8 links only provides 55% damage mitigation. So if you attack that central portal with all the links coming off of it first, it might take you twice as many weapons. But in the long run, if you had to kill a bunch of other portals around the edge, it was going to take you more weapons because you were going to be using 16% more weapons on every portal versus 55% more on one. And so usually if a portal has more than 3 links coming out of it, it's going to be better to kill the linked portal versus the portals that it links to. So kill that main hub first. The only exception of this, obviously, is going to be if the portals that it is linked to have a bunch of shields on them, like 2 Axis shields or 2 very rares, because they've already hit their maximum damage mitigation anyway. So just go ahead and kill that one and don't worry about it. But generally that's not what happens. Usually there's one that's linked out to like 8, 9, 10 others. You kill that one first, you're going to save a lot of weapons instead of using them to essentially destroy links that you're going to destroy one way or another. So it's just a lot quicker, better, easier way to be able to do that. And moving on to quicker, better, easier ways to do things. If you remember in one of our previous pro tips, I suggested that when you are attacking an area, if you are running out of XM, to go ahead and use a power cube before you run out. But a user, Dutch Digic, I think that's how you say it, reminded me something, and this is a kind of an alternate strategy. If you were attacking an area that is perhaps it has a bunch of force amps and a bunch of turrets on it, and is attacking you so much that you're just getting shot constantly, and it looks like you have a giant bacon cape on you, and there's you're losing XM insanely, the better route to go in order to save power cubes, if you have the time while attacking, because this is something like a farm, it doesn't matter so much. So if you have the time while attacking, once you reach the 0 XM and you get the scanner disabled message, go ahead and use a low-level power cube or recycle just a few resonators, enough that you can fire off one more weapon. That way you're only losing that little bit of XM when it attacks back at you, instead of losing perhaps 25 or 50% of your XM bar, depending on the area. I've had that happen where you see the damage rack up and it says like 600% damage on there. So that can be a better methodology if you're attacking somewhere that's heavily attacking you back. You want to save power cubes and you have the time. So thank you so much, Dutch Digic, for providing that information for us. And now moving on to my favorite tip. This is Pro Tip 5, brought to you by Narwhale with no E 748, aka Eric Massey. This is a fantastic one because I didn't know about it, and this is going to save me a ton. So let's say that a player is attacking your portal, and you get the notifications in the area and you see it all scrolling up, and maybe you have a bunch of keys and it's hard to find the key, but in that little alerts area it had popped up and says, oh, that's the one they're attacking. So maybe you click on that and then you recharge it, but then you have to go back out for a power cube. Now you have to find that same portal in either your list of keys or in your giant list of comm attacks, which if a bunch of people are attacking, you can lose it very easily. But Eric told me, and I tested this out to make sure it was true, if you actually, when you're in the portal, when you click, if you click navigate to that portal, it'll provide that little icon on your screen, so it'll be sitting there. So after you use the power cube, all you have to do is re-click on that icon. You can go back to the portal and recharge it again and not lose that portal in the sea of notifications or in the sea of keys. So this will make sure that you always have access to the portal that you're recharging. Use that simple little navigate feature, and then once they're done attacking, or once you don't need that anymore, you can always just turn the navigation off. So that's the first useful thing I've ever found for the navigation. So thank you so much, Eric, aka Narwhal748. I have a feeling he bacons at midnight. So just to recap again for all of those different pro tips. Number 1, use that quick menu, the long press for the deploy resonator. If all you need to do is deploy resonators, it will deploy them 12 to 13% faster for you to be able to get there and back out as well. Try to replace portal of resonators on a portal that you're recharging, or instead of recharging it, so that we'll get a lot more AP if you are present at that location. If you do have an area where a portal is highly linked out, kill the portal that's the giant hub of all those links first. You'll end up saving weapons in the long run. You can run the math on it. And as well, if you want to save power cubes, if you're attacking an area that's attacking back heavily, use, after you run completely out, then use a low-level power cube or recycle a few resonators, just enough for another shot off to be able to do that. And hopefully they won't be recharging on you. And then lastly, if you want to make sure that you never lose track of a portal, just use the navigate to portal feature to make sure that you always have that thing on your screen so that you can go ahead and click on it and go back to recharging it. Or if you just ever need to find a portal for some particular reason, you can leave it on your screen that way as well. So thank you very much, Eric Massey and Dutch Digic, for your awesome tips that you sent in. As always, you know, I have a challenge for everyone. It's once again for pro tips, and as always, post your pro tips below. I want to see what other great information we can get from agents that we can share out to the world, and you will obviously get a shout out and your name on the screen, just like those 2 agents that gave us advice for this episode as well. So to make sure that you always have the latest tips and tricks, just go ahead and click the subscribe button. I know I always bug you about it, but some people don't subscribe. So if you just click subscribe, it's very easy, it's very quick. It does subscribe you to the entire channel, so I apologize. You know, you might accidentally run into videos of my improv troupe performing or something like that. But if you want to make sure that you always just get the Ingress ones, just click the ones that say Ingression and watch those alone. And finally, a new feature. I'm going to be going back out. I'm planning to go back out on the road again and play Ingress on the road as well. So I'm going to have a list of cities that is going to be right up here. It's also going to be hopefully on a website that I'll get later. But check if I'm going anywhere soon, I'm going to update it constantly right there. If I'm going out and your city is in there, hit me up. I would love to play with you guys in your town, and definitely can do some Ingression live perhaps and do some live training classes if you guys would love to do that with some of your newer players, regardless of faction, regardless of anything. Just get out there, have some fun, and play. Thank you guys so much for watching and enjoying Ingression. Go out there, hack, have fun, recharge, deploy, destroy, deploy, enjoy.